Welcome back. Straight to the political segment. I have with me in the studio Chief Ahmed Peter, National Secretary, CUPP, and former National Chairman, IPAC. Welcome back on the weekend show, sir.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
Welcome. Also joining us, we have an award-winning international human rights lawyer, Kola Alapidi, who is also the U.S. Secretary of State awardee on international religious freedom. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And welcome back on the weekend show. We haven't seen in a bit. We were meant to see, I think it was in LA when I was there on some program as well. But it's nice of both of you to join us. Chief, let's start with you. What's your overview of the President's independence speech and all he mentioned as achievements and what they have put in place?
I think the president is being misinformed. Like I said, in my statement, that there's fading patriotism. There's that the Independence Day celebration has been dimmed by the economic hardship, and that you see from 1960 to now, you see a legacy of unfulfilled promises. So we need a more concrete result than rhetorics by stating figures or information that have been given to him that are not actually true. Because in his speech, he clearly stated that you can travel freely in Nigeria. You can, farmlands as we speak to you are not secured. Farmers can't go to farm. The inflation figures for food alone is over 40%. The headline inflation is over 32.something%. We have over 133 million multidimensional people living in multidimensional poverty. That's about 63% of our population. You now you talk about our school children. If you look at Vanguard in May, what they reported by UNICEF, you have 18.3 million. So these are figures, the reality that the government should have been discussing, to be able to have a concrete approach to see how these issues can be resolved. If you're talking about, he also mentioned that throughout the speech, he never talked about those who protested. He never even cared to discuss their issues. And he was praising those who fought for democracy. By not talking about those who are protesting today, fighting for democracy, you have also denied the legacies of those who have protested to give us democratic governance. Democracy is beyond just being in government and taking power. It is the ability to provide for the people, the ability to work for the people's interests, the ability to restructure look, with whatever political achievement we struggle to achieve, that we have had uninterrupted democracy since 1999, without economic freedom, our people will still be subjected to the level of manipulation that you see today. Our people will still have, you go travel across Nigeria, you look at the malnutrition. We don't have a country within the 21st century structure. We don't have a proper transportation network in this country. We don't have, there's a level of decaying infrastructure should be subject of national discourse. And I don't see the president acting as if this is an emergency, as if this is an issue that should be confronted, immediately. We can't continue to throw out figures that do not align with the reality of today. We can't continue to talk about, clearing debts that have not been cleared. So there are a lot of, discrepancies that you could find in the president's speech. And for people who, somebody says, oh, why you didn't see anything? Oh, yes, we could see you offer hope. Every Nigerian president that offered hope. You can't offer hope on nothing. You can't offer hope without the concrete plan and objective on how to drive Nigeria from these woods. We're in a very deep hole. Nothing is currently, as we speak today. People can't have stable food. People can't afford Gary. People can't even buy granite, which is now skyrocketed from 800 naira, 700 naira to over 2,700 by bottle, depending on the location you are buying. You can't talk about a bag of rice today that have risen to 115,000 naira. So if you have a 70,000 naira salary, that means you have to do a job to also buy a bag of rice. So you don't have a system. If you talk about our civil service, that was in the pride of Africa. Our civil service was something that you could discuss in anywhere in the African continent in the 70s and the 80s. And today you have a civil service that you do not have a workable plan for them. There's no federal housing for the civil service. There's no transportation system that could eliminate the cost of transport. Whatever we have, this level of poverty we see today has been occasioned by the impulsive and irrational policy decisions. Because you cannot, without, even if you want to do construction of road, building houses, you have what they call environmental impact assessment. You cannot, without study, without getting into office, without looking at structural plans and talking with professionals, it removes resources the way it did. That alone contributed immediately that day contribute over 80% to transportation costs. And what you should know is that transportation costs dovetails into everything. It affects services, it increases the cost of service, the cost of food, the cost of everything. Because we don't have a public transport system. You just talk about you travel abroad, you just came back. You don't have a public transport system that people can just buy, ticket for a 1 month and be, going at a cheaper cost. You don't have a train system that connects this country. These countries that disappointed our founding father. Those who have led us, whether in the military era, after the Civil War arrangement, people talk, these are not the issues. Our issue is about having a transformational leadership. Somebody will say, oh, all of us must change. Nigerians must try to readjust themselves. Where in the world have you seen a country that has been taken from a third world to a first world that it was the responsibility of the citizen? It is those who have put themselves up for election. Those who have said we can do this, that have taken that man to look at what Lee Kuan Yew did. It was a one-man thing. It wasn't he sat down and they said, this stop with me. We must transfer our country. In South Korea, the same thing happened. In even the China you speak today, it was the leader who decided that we must have a projection on how to solve the problem. Look at the problem we have. Nigeria has a situation where government is not continuum, where every person that comes thinks that he must start afresh. And there's a struggle to try to tie 10 kilometers of road so that they can name it on their name. We do not have a short-term, medium-term, and long-term plan. We did Vision 2020, Vision 2010. None of them were concrete enough. So there's no country that can solve. We should have a plan. If it's a short and medium-term plan, so that as soon as you leave, whether it is GGG, Labour Party, APC, or PDP that comes into office, they should continue to follow that plan, so that we can have a planned growth, because everything must be deliberate. It is not we playing politics 24 hours and it's talking about things that are not necessary, because that cannot translate into putting food on the table of the common man. The common man does not want to talk about, what do you mean, these inflation figures that I'm railing out. The common man does not want to talk about import duties or tariff, whether if you want to buy a small car in the early 2000s, you could buy it for 1.5. Even declaring now is over 5 million naira. So what happens to the system? We don't have the automotive plan that we have to make Nigeria self-sufficient in car production. They are not following up because they are not interested in taking this 200 billion. Look, people discuss football today. Have they looked at what Margaret Thatcher did in England? It was a deliberate attempt to make sure that the England football league becomes the signature of all highs around the world. Margaret Thatcher invested so much money in it. So if you think that Moto Promas, the Proforce is a private company, then you are mistaken. Because it's a company that are resident in this country, that if they do well, they will employ Nigerians, they will contribute to Nigeria, and then they will reduce the overburden problem we have with Forex, just like what Dangote has done. So you carry money, you can carry 300 billion and give to them. Obama did it during his time when the American automobile industries were going underground. You give them a grant that would not driven by interest and allow them to expand this industry, this factory. So these are concrete steps that our president must take, not these rhetoric that they continue to make Nigeria want to follow.
Very interesting submission, which I agree with a whole lot of what you've said. Kola, let's hear your thoughts.
Well, it's a tough act. Well, I think the president is not sure of the direction which he needs to channel Nigeria. There's so many policy somersaults. A lot of stuff are shrouded in secrecy. I'll give you an example. A private individual decides to set up a refinery, and we have so much bickering between NNPC and these.
Almost feels like someone is trying to sabotage something.
Yeah, I'm wondering what's going on. Are we all living in the same country? And until the president now said, okay, we should be selling our crude oil to him in Naira, which is supposed to drive down the pump price of petrol. And yet, we haven't seen any changes yet. It almost seems as if the NNPC, which was supposed to be like a regulator, becomes an active opponent of market forces. That's one of them. Regarding his speech, it seemed as if the president was talking about a different Nigeria to which we know. It seemed he was reading a fictional speech. It didn't apply to our reality when you talk about security, for instance. I dare you to travel on the Nigerian roads like we used to do in the 70s and 80s, and everybody was doing cross-country traveling. You do that at your own risk. Even air travel is abominable now. I used to go to Kano frequently, and I started going to Kano when tickets were costing less than 30,000 naira. A return ticket to Kano now is 198, 199. Try junketing to Lagos over the weekend like we used to do. You can't do that anymore. So our reality does not translate into what the president is saying. I don't know the kind of water they drink in Aso Rock that makes you
But the president
disconnected.
will tell you that he has, which he always says that he has reviewed taxes, and he started talking about tax waivers on food, on medical supplies. He will tell you that he has set up credit call for a credit system, MSMEs, and a national loan, and all whatnot. Do you think that that's a move in the right direction? Because they will tell you, we've done all of this, and so it will take time for it to work.
Well, it shouldn't take that much time if the policies are going to work. First and foremost, I think we need to really confront ourselves and see that we're not a producer nation. We're largely a trading nation. And when he was talking about the cost of petrol, it was a reckless statement as far as I was concerned. When the president just says on 29th of May, fuel subsidy is gone. And it wasn't even in his speech. It has a spiraling effect. We need to speak with more decorum if we're in positions of power. If the American president says something on Twitter today, the stock markets are going to balk. You know this very well, and it's going to contract. So when he said that, here we are. 80% of the poverty level which we've experienced since the president came into power was as a result of that speech which he made. Take, for instance, customs. He was talking about car importation and the cost of import. What we're just doing is we're just levying our citizens. And that's why I said we're a trading nation. We're not a producing nation. Where we derive pleasure in taxes, in tariffs, in levies, be it on the road by the policemen or local government officials, be it in the marketplace. Look, what are we really producing? But what you see is all sorts of agents wearing flak jackets and everything, just ticketing, taxing. It doesn't make any sense. Then he was talking about a continuum of government, whether whichever party is there should be some sort of continuum and everything. And I'm going to use Lagos State as an example. Even when you had a singular party that was there, when Ambode got there, he refused to do the policies of his predecessors. I mean, the trains were abandoned. This blue line or whatever they were commissioning, because we wanted to do something different. And I think that was one of the reasons why it was booted out in Lagos, because they said they have a blueprint and it's not following it.
Booted out by who?
By the powers that be, and the people. Because obviously, I mean, he lost woefully. The campaign against him was so strong that he didn't even win a vote on my street. I used to live in Surulere then. And I was told, the woman leader of the APC was living in my house, and she told me he's not going to get one vote, and he didn't get one because of the policies, the destruction of Loma, so to
But
speak.
talking about that, Kola, and I'll let you finish. Peter Obi had said he'll remove subsidy. Atiku Abubakar had said he'll remove subsidy. Bola Ahmed Tinubu had said he'll remove subsidy. So would anything have been different regardless of who was in there?
Yeah, it could have been. The approach, for instance. You don't just wake up one morning during your presidential inauguration and say, fuel subsidy is gone. That's very, very, very reckless. What measures have you put into place to ameliorate the withdrawal of the subsidy? Have you engaged people? Have you talked to them? Maybe it could have waited till
I want to review the books of NNPC.
Yeah, why is it so opaque? I saw a video of Chief MK Abiola in 1993 when he was talking about NNPC, and it seems as if he was talking about NNPC just yesterday. So in 31 years, we didn't move an inch. It's a very opaque institution. It's almost unaccountable. Nobody knows what goes on in there, and nobody wants to talk about it. And the president, in being the Minister of Petroleum, owes us a duty, because he is directly in charge of that portfolio. You don't just ascribe, which Chief Olusegun Obasanjo was the one who started this process. He wants to know what goes on in the petroleum ministry. The Minister of Petroleum cannot sign some leases or without the president's signature if the president becomes the Minister of Oil. And that's the only reason why every one of them keeps appropriating this portfolio to themselves. But how does it translate into real change? What do you bring? It's almost inexplicable that I'm filling my tank with almost 100,000 naira.
Yes.
That is shocking.
Yes.
It used to be just 13,000, and
Yeah.
it has a spiraling effect on every daily life until we really sit down and are truthful to ourselves, for instance, and decide. He also mentioned Lee Kuan and Margaret Thatcher. And these are people who selflessly rose above their country and say, I'm going to do this. I think a lot of what the president says are rhetorics. He says, oh, I'm going to do the job. I asked for it. I'm going to use my brain. I'm not digging a grave. But you're not leading by example. Look at the scores of vehicles in his convoy. His kids were flying on the presidential jet. I mean, the president had his own private jet. And they said, we don't need your money. His wife said so. So why are your kids not flying your jets? Why are they flying the jets of Nigerians or the presidents? I mean, these are all the things that people see, and the optics are bad. The optics are bad. You need to start from yourself, and then everybody keys into it. But if every little second, Buhari runs to London, he has a ear infection, he has a throat infection, he runs to London. We packed our presidential jet in London for almost 6 months. And the president is doing the same. He's going on leave in London. That's what they said. Why can't you stay live in Nigeria and really know what is going on? Next minute you're in China, next minute you're at this. All this costs a lot of money. You talked about the First Lady's office, for instance. It's not constitutional. Why have we sent over 700 million on our foreign trips? Almost 1 billion. What's wrong with us? And how long is this going to continue?
Talking about leadership, Chief Ahmed, you mentioned Lee Kuan Yew, Margaret Thatcher, and so leadership is extremely important. Part of the concerns the masses have is that this is one of the largest cabinets we've had in a while. The president has over 44, 47 ministers, and May 29th or June 12th, we're expected to see a reshuffle. We now have a minister who has been suspended. We had another one who left and went back to the Senate. We now have people coming online to say correctional services. People are bribing them and going to be put in VIP places and the likes. You've had the former CBN governor locked up and being investigated. October 1st, we expected the cabinet reshuffle. Now our president has gone on vacation, on leave. What are your thoughts about the current composition of his cabinet, especially the ministers, because there's only so much the president can do, and he has put people in place. And we expected a reshuffle. We haven't seen it. What message does this pass to Nigerians?
For me, people say there's so much the president can do because he has representative in all the ministries. First of all, this president, I think, does not understand when you have what they call federation, that means you have federating unit that is more than one. And this government does not understand the intricacies that comes with such, responsibility. One, the president that talked about having cutting cost of governance, he spoke about it very loudly and very eloquently. But you discover that he has expanded cost of governance more than any president in our nation history. Because when you want to look at the Oresanya report and you really want to take it down, the recommendation was to merge some of the MDAs and agencies and then reduce them to, I think, 161 or so, and then, also reduce our ministries. What is wrong if the Constitution says that every state will have one minister? If you really want an effective governance, I don't think our president should be Minister of Petroleum, he should be Minister of Agriculture. Because this is where you should have had direct interest in, so that at the end of the day, you can put food on the Nigerian table. This is concentration on one mono product that has led Nigeria to nowhere, that has even impoverished our people because of the corruption in the system there. So the president trying to do cabinet reshuffle and then making such statement without acting upon it further shows to see that whatever decision it takes are not really decisions that he can follow up with. Because what he's doing is talking about political consideration. Because his appointment were politically based. They weren't based on competence, merit, and character. And people who have the wherewithal to take this decision. This is the only president I've seen that has suspended the minister going to how many months now, and there's no report on the reason for the suspension. The outcome for that suspension has not been put forward because it's given to this politics more than governance. And the president must see that the lives of Nigerians are on the line. You are put there to govern the people right, to do policies and implement policies that could actually change the course of our trajectory. We can't have a system that our president travel abroad, for instance, for vacation. You are looking for FDI. You are looking for people to come and invest. If your country is not safe for you to relax, as big as Nigeria is, as you have Obudukatu Ranch, the fall in Bauchi, you have Ekokusu fall in Ekiti, where you should go. This will promote interest in how foreigners and locals see how to participate.
Which is why he has
system.
appointed the Minister of Tourism, which we've not had in a while.
The Minister of Tourism, you need to have what I'm saying. What is the optics here? You have a Minister of Tourism, and you can't even do you can't even relax with your own country. What are you telling those who have to come from neighboring countries to come and also take advantage of our tourism potential? Nigeria is not short of that. Nigeria is a country driven by a huge natural environment that will afford a lot of opportunity people to enjoy the sea. Our president is not. I think our president has not really sat down with the team or discuss, on how they can really have a design for economic blueprint, for developmental blueprint, and then work properly on a day-to-day basis. You must have a president that have the capacity to call every minister on a daily basis, work till 4 a.m., look at what the minister is doing, as also as the ministries to make periodic or monthly report to Nigerians on the progress of work. Some of these ministers, just when the president talked about cabinet reshuffle, you started seeing them on TV. They started going about saying what they were doing, and these are things that governance is not it's not rocket science, and it's not something that you sit down, you keep on explaining, and people are not feeling it. It is meant for the people. The people must be able to react to it. They must be able to relate with it. The president sat, when he came into office, a lot of people forget, he made a promise that he's going to be tilling and working over 500,000 hectares of land every year for agriculture. He hasn't done 1 square meter. So what kind of policies are you talking about? What kind of interest does this president have in this government? You can't be, look, the easiest way for us to get out of this whole thing, I keep on telling people, is through our investment in a mechanized agricultural system. Because we must be, it has gestation period, one of the shortest in the world. If you are doing cassava, you know when it will come out. If you are producing, look at Ukraine. We could beat Ukraine with the production, what they call it, farming with millet and all that, and grains. We could beat them, we could defeat them. So why are we not doing that? Why are we not tapping into this? Why are we not be able to sit down with an expert from our investors? Why are we just allowing people to do paper presentation without any government policy to back it up? We are talking about our investors that you give some investors, how many millions of naira to run. Something that is not up to what they are spending on state tax clinic that has not been used by any president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria since its creation.
Talking about universities, the Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities have already threatened an indefinite strike. Every year there's one strike or the other. But you've heard what he has said, and several things come to mind. Growing up, we knew all the names of the ministers. We can still recall them. How many Nigerians know up to 50% of these ministers? We spoke about tourism. I only remembered we had the Ministry of Tourism because I had to go and look up a list of all the ministers just this week, and I've still forgotten half of them. But there has been also the global perspective we should attract to this FDI. The president was absent at UNGA, and the ideal optics is that, there was flooding in Nigeria, and so he had to deal with it. But the United Nations General Assembly is a platform where you use to market your country. I remember a speech by Gaddafi which stood out so much because of how forward he was in defense of his policies and his country. The vice president was sent to represent the president. And for once, this year's United Nations General Assembly was almost not spoken about in Nigeria. No real outcomes. Yet there were tons of government officials in the US, several side events, and the likes, while the masses are suffering. You're talking about flight tickets. In 2018, I bought a flight ticket to a foreign country, and it cost me 165,000 naira. Now it's not going to cost, and that was a return ticket. Now to go to Lagos here, I can't even
It costs more than that.
afford that. And so leadership does matter. The president was at the United Nations General Assembly. His vice president, who is experienced in financial matters, used to work with a bank, was there. We've had cases of other government and companies seizing national assets, like foreign jets. Our houses and properties which we own in different parts of the world are now being confiscated. And this administration will tell you, it wasn't our fault. How do you think all of this affects the global perception of Nigeria and investor appetite?
It does. It affects in a very poor way. I'm going to try and pick just a few. It's a very wide field, isn't it? Number one, the greatest investment we can make is investing in our country and believing in ourselves. So inexplicably, we're inflicting a trust deficit issue on ourselves. For instance, when have you ever heard the United States president come to spend holiday in Nigeria? Or the British president, or even the Ghanaian president, or the Cameroonian president come to spend holiday in Nigeria. So when you leave your country, you are primus inter pares, first among equals, and you start dashing down to London for holidays, you are inherently saying something is not going on well. When we were going to school, I went to Government College Baden. I'm always very proud to say I went to University of Baden, and you could be in the same class with a child of a commissioner, the child of a governor, even in universities. It doesn't happen anymore. They're all sending their kids to school abroad. So one of the policies which I expect the president should have done, to have said, okay, fine. If you have the means and you want to send your kids abroad, it's up to you. But if you are going to serve in my cabinet, your children have to school in Nigeria. That's one of the first ways to rescue the educational system. The reason why ASU keeps going on these incessant strikes is because the people who have vested interests in Nigeria don't have their kids here. Their kids are all out. So if ASU sits down at home for 8 months, it doesn't affect you. But if your kids are in school, as Minister of Education, you would rapidly see to it that the educational system works. The same with health tourism. Buhari came and said, oh, I will not do this, I will not do that, I will not go abroad for he immediately fell ill. He was the first person that ran to London and was stayed there for like 6 months. And we're seeing the same thing with our president. Every time he's dashing to see his doctors in Paris, in London. If we don't start going to UCH and return it back to the glorious days which it used to be in the 70s and 80s, where monarchs from the Middle East will come and be using our teaching hospitals here. We were the ones who set up the teaching hospitals in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and everything. When I was in school, lots of my friends whose the fathers were professors of medicine and doctors from UI, from UCH, they all left to Kuwait and Saudi Arabia to help them with their health infrastructure. So if we don't start using hospitals, people in positions of power, any small thing, you run to London, you had a headache, you're going to America, you're going to Germany, our health system is not going to work. If you do not disconnect ASU Rock from alternative power supply and connect it to Band A or Band B, so that whenever light goes, the president is aware that there's no lights. You don't put them on a special. We're not going to have lights in Nigeria. I'm telling you. We're just going to keep buying solar, using gen, and we're not going to fix the national grid. PDP said they spent $16 billion on the issue of NEPA, and we still don't have lights. How much does it take to build a whole new grid from scratch? A top-notch grid. Look at our railway infrastructure system. We lay so much emphasis on we're going to open this trunk, we're doing this. Well, we're coming with those old trains that we're coming. If someone doesn't really like Nigeria, what's wrong with us in having the highest cutting-edge technology, the bullet trains and everything? But we can't have those bullet trains if we don't fix our energy sector. What about security? Who is going to bring their money into Nigeria when you can just wake up one morning and the government just cancels whatever or fines you or levy? You shake investor confidence. And that's why we're not seeing all this FDI. Who is going to loan you money? You talked about UNGA very well. I was in UNGA 2 years ago, and we are known for jamborees. It's only Nigeria that comes with like 400 people on delegation. You don't find any hotels. You know this area very well. East 44th Street. You have the Millennium Hilton. You have a couple of hotels there. Those hotels are not cheap, and they're booked all through UNGA for maybe like $1,300, $1,600 per night. I couldn't get an hotel until they found one for me off Times Square, which is cost $600 a night. I was like, $600 a night. Should have told me to stay in New Jersey and give me the change. I would have gladly taken it. And then you're going to this kind of place in posh vehicles. They see you staying in fantastic hotels, and you're in their country, and you're asking them for loans, for grants. Nobody's going to listen to you. We don't come across as being serious. The presidents of the smaller European nations and richer nations, I must add, Norway, Finland, everybody's staying in Queens and across the river and all. We want to stay right in Manhattan, and we're spending thousands of dollars per night on hotel, and we're coming in convoys. Have you seen the convoys of Nigerian delegation whenever they arrive in New York? And these other people are even hitching rides. Finland is going to hitch a ride with Norway, and so I'm going to join you in the car. And they all go together in small vehicles, and they are richer than we are. And we'll keep going there, and we're splurging, and everybody's hitting the streets in New York and going on a shopping spree. You think they don't see everything? They see everything now. And they just laugh at us. Like, these people are not serious.
It is rather unfortunate because the masses see that, yes, the government is saying, be patient with us, we're working, but we're still seeing the ruling class, and which is the appointed and elected officials, living lavish. Final words, Chief, what's the way forward?
The way forward is that when you have government in place, the government should be able to preach what the, act in the direction of whatever they tell the citizens. You can't tell the citizens that you should tighten belt while the government goes on spending spree, expanding the cost of governance, buying new private jets, buying yachts, buying vehicles, Escalade, and all the rest of them. And you can't have a government that is not, proactive in handling issues. That's always reactive to issues of, flood. We don't have statistics to protect our people from all those kind of situations. It's government that embezzlement has become a major issue. Government that is building car park, National Assembly, library, and all that in the National Assembly. Government that is investing in status clinic and not making use of it. You can't have that kind of a system. And also, the government must also work its talk. Because when you talk about cost of governance and cutting it down, you can't have 47 or 48 ministers and creating no ministry. There can be a department and a parastatal that could be very effective for the ministry you are creating. It's just like looking at water resources and say you are creating ministry of stream out of it because it's not working. It's because there's no effective management of that ministry. And I think that for going forward, I don't think we should have more than 19 ministers or 18 ministers. Because if you want to make it work, if you feel the ministries are too big for one person, don't do senior and junior ministers. Take two states, give them one ministry. Let them have both two senior ministers, let them work day and night, and see how they can effectively channel development to our people. And government must concentrate on agriculture. They must invest so much money so that, look, the people are malnourished, people are hungry. Yes, Nigerians are very patient with government. Nigerians are people who usually get satisfied when government do one little road or construct. These are no longer the kind of governance we talk about all over the world. Governance must have a system to. No government can employ all Nigerians. No government can do that. But any government that fails to provide an enabling environment for people to invest, for small and medium scale enterprises, that is the mainstay of any economy in the world, to have growth and grow. Look at the Banhei policies that have been brought. How do you expect people who are running this small-scale artisans and co to survive with it? The cost of living in Nigeria has gone over the roof. The out-of-pocket expenses has tripled. So government will look how to do, and we should stop this handout. You have a flood, you share rice. You have this accident on the road, you share rice. People are talking of this, you share rice. And these rice are not even seen. These rice are also repackaged and sold by government officials because there are no proper inspection mechanism put in place to monitor these things. It is just done as a means of television broadcast so that people can hear that we're doing something. We must have a government that must look. You people say, oh, we have the local government, we have state government. Lagos alone controls about over 50% of our nation's economy. We must decentralize our port system, invest in other ports where we have an opportunity to do that, and congest Lagos port, and then do this proper investment and stop this over concentration and over this thing in one location. We must also look at how to connect. He talked about train and energy sufficiency, energy security is very key for any nation's development. If you don't have energy, look at companies that are folded up. They talked about over 800 companies have left this country. These are facts. These are facts that cannot be denied by any. And how do you survive based on that? When government don't have capacity to absorb graduate, when our system and policies, we have a beautiful policy. There's segregation in our school system, like my friend and brother has mentioned here. Segregation in the sense that in the 80s and 70s, when people go to school, you could sit with these children of big men, you network from that classes level. But today, if you are going to any public school, it is concentration of either extreme poor or nothing. And if you are going to, if those who can send their children abroad, they are going to school here where you pay serious in dollars. And there's this segregation will not help our children to integrate and have this kind of cohesion, to be able to relate properly. You can't have a segregation within the school system, that you have the public school system only for the extreme poor. And within this extreme poor, even when we have free education, the people don't even have the transport. To some of these people don't have transport to send their children to school. We have a system where it's either you are extremely rich or you are extremely poor. There's no middle class as we speak today, or you have a little way of surviving yourself. So look, government policy is key. Let's not do policy based on our impulsive, how we feel. We must have proper policy and then state years of implementation, how we're going to get through to this, and then get the National Assembly. The National Assembly is even a major problem too, because the National Assembly has become like a spineless, pressing, whatever the president brings, they sign, ways and means, they sign, whatever it is. They are not even looking at proper framework of what these loans and some of this money generated, where are they invested, where are this infrastructure going on. They also have become a arm of the executive in putting over 2-point-something trillion naira in our budget. The National Assembly function is just a very simple thing. It is to make laws for the good governance and development of our country. There's nothing else.
Unfortunately, because of time, that's the much we can take. But you've mentioned key bits, such as policy is extremely important, and the National Assembly must act as the watchdog. You've spoken about infrastructure, cutting costs of governance, and the government actually being aligned and in tune with the reality of the people. I know how much it's cost me just this week to buy fuel for my car. I know how much it's costing me to pay for electricity. I see people now turning off their freezers at night for a couple of hours to save money. On the bright side, the Minister of Power has said that we may experience a reduced price in electricity tariffs, but I've never seen things go up and come down in Nigeria, so we hope for the better. But that's the much we can take on the political segment. We will continue to observe and see what's going on. Up next, we have Tenda Chimelu on our Entrepreneur Spotlight, and we also have our ladies in red, Aisha and Zina, who will be coming on next with the entertainment segment. Don't go away.